Hi, everybody. Welcome. Give everybody a few moments to join. Thank you for coming here today, Junior Rangers. Hey, well, good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing today? Is everybody doing well? My name is Lydia, and I work at Anza Borrego Desert State Park. Have any of you ever been to a desert before? Ooh, maybe some of us have, maybe some of you live nearby, maybe some of you have visited before, maybe some of you have never been to a desert before. Well, I'm here to tell you all today that the desert is hot, especially during the summertime. It is 10:30 and it is about 96 degrees. So it's gonna get to be about 107 degrees today. So I am inside right now, but we're gonna get to explore some really cool things together as we work towards our Junior Ranger badges. I'm so excited for you all. But before we begin, we are going to recite our Junior Ranger pledge, okay? So I need everybody to put your hands up, put your hand closest to your heart, maybe your left hand or your right hand, whichever hand you feel most confident about. You're gonna say, I, your name, promise. So I, Lydia, promise to treat the earth and all living things with care and respect. Be careful about what I do and how it affects others. Learn about the importance of nature and our heritage. All right, hopefully you repeated after me along the way and you didn't have to do that all at the end there. So Junior Rangers, today we're going to get to learn about something really cool here at Anza Borrego. One of my favorite places in this park is called the Badlands. Have any of you ever heard of Badlands before? Sounds kind of like a scary place, right? Why would you call a place the Badlands? That doesn't sound very welcoming. Well, I'm going to share some photos with you all of the Badlands. Give me 1 second here while I pull them up. And we're going to make some observations together. You're going to tell me what you noticed. Does anything stand out to you? Is there anything weird or different going on here? All right. And I see some of you have found our Q&A box. If you want to type in your observations, you absolutely can do that. If you want to write them down at home or just keep a mental note of them, that is quite all right. So I'd love for you to make some observations. Have any of you ever been to a place that looks like this before? Does anything look weird or cool or different? Let's zoom in a little bit. Let's see some of these mountains up close here. What else do we notice? I see some of you saying that there is lots of dirt and sand out here. Yes, very sandy, lots of rocks and sand and dirt. Let's take a look up here. Oops, you know what? Actually, switch photos here. This one right here. What do we notice here? Does anything stand out to you? Ooh, some of you are saying that you don't notice a lot of plant life here. It's pretty dry here, not a lot of trees. So there's some shrubs in this photo here, but not really too much here. Some of you say it looks really hot, and today, my friends, it is very hot. Ooh, some of you are saying you notice lines or stripes. Yeah, as we look across these mountains here in the Badlands, we notice that these mountains have stripes going across them. And these are actually, and I'll draw for you all here, these are actually, oh, maybe I won't draw. Here we go. Layers. So we see Oh no, oh no, oh no. We see these striped layers going across our screen here. And these layers were built up over millions to thousands of years. So let me come back on screen here. I want you all to imagine that you are standing right here in Anza Borrego Desert State Park, down here in sunny Southern California. You are standing here 10 million years ago. All right, we're going back in time today, friends. Let's say that 10 million years ago, there's a ginormous earthquake. And that earthquake causes a huge rock fall. And all these rocks come tumbling down the mountain and cover the ground in front of us. All right, we're okay. We're just looking from above. And then let's say, let's go 5 million years ago, a little bit more recently. 5 million years ago, let's say there's a volcanic eruption. All right. And that all that volcanic ash that gets blown up into the sky starts to settle down out here in the desert. Then let's go more recent. Let's say 20,000 years ago, way more recent. Let's say 20,000 years ago, there's a big flood. All right. And all of this water comes barreling down and covers the ground in a thick layer of mud. Well, what we're seeing here, friends, is all of these different types of sediments that are stacking on top of each other, forming these really cool striped mountains that we see here today. Now, the coolest part about these striped mountains is that they are the perfect resting place for fossils. So here at Anza Borrego Desert State Park, we have lots and lots of fossils. And I am here today in our paleontology laboratory. And we're going to get to explore some of the fossils that we find here, what we do when we find fossils, and what you all can do if you find anything out in the fields. All right, so this first fossil that I'm going to share with you all today, I'm thinking you all might recognize it. Okay, so feel free to draw it. If you've got your pens and papers out, feel free to type it into the chat box if you have a guess. I see a lot of you have been using our Q&A box, which is great. We'll do time for lots of questions at the very end. But if you have a guess, let's see what you think it is. All right, what do we think this fossil is? All right, I'll give you some time to kind of look around here, see what we notice. Go up close here. Ooh, I see some really great guesses coming in here. So many of you are saying it is a snail shell. Yes, this is a snail shell here. We can see by this really cool curved shape here that we've got a snail shell in our hands. But all fossils, every single fossil that exists on this planet, are evidence of past life. All right, that's the best definition I can get for you all. It's any evidence of past life. And there are two main types of fossils. There are body fossils, which come from an animal's body or plant body, part of their skeleton. And there's something called trace fossils. Now, trace fossils aren't from the animals themselves, but they're evidence that at some point in time, a plant or animal was there. All right, so it could maybe be an imprint of a leaf or a footprint of an animal that's fossilized over time. That's not from the animal itself, right? But it's evidence that that animal was there. This, my friends, what do we think this is? Is it a trace fossil or is it a body fossil? This, my friends, is a trace fossil. All right, so this right here isn't the physical shell of this snail. I want you all to imagine that at some point in time, there was a really big shell that looked quite similar to this, and it was emptied out. And all this mud and sand slowly started to fill in the inside space of the shell. Over time, that mud and sand and sediment inside started to harden, started to fossilize, and the shell itself started to wear away. So what we're left with is kind of like a mold of the inside space of what this shell looked like. So this is a cool example of what we call a trace fossil. Now we're going to look at quite a few fossils today. Snails are, pretty cool. But I've got two more fossils over here. One of them's a little bit trickier, and one of them's a little bit easier. Do we want to do the harder one or the easier one? I want you to see if you can find that raised hand button. Raise your hand if you want to do the harder one, the trickier one. Ooh, lots of hands going up. Okay, put your hands down. Raise your hand if you want to do the easier one. Feeling like, all right, we're still warming up. We want to do a little bit easier. Okay, it's kind of even here. Let's start with the easier one. Actually, let's start with the hard one. I think I had more hands for the hard one. Let's start with the harder one, then we'll do the easier one because the easier one's really cool. All right, ready for this, friends? Let's see if we can figure this out, all right? Whoa, okay. So I'll kind of share with you my observation. So I noticed that this side is kind of rough and bumpy here, whereas this side, it's a little bit smoother. It's got kind of a curved shape to it here. And I like to point out this shape right here. This gives me some clues. Let me check out our chat box here. See what we notice. Ooh, a lot of you are guessing turtle. Turtle is a good guess. This is an animal that has a shell. In fact, it has two shells. It has one shell on this side, one shell on this side, and a squishy body in between. Some of you said abalone, which is a really good guess. Abalones have one shell and a squishy body that is free and out. This one has two shells. Oh man, a bunch of you now are saying clam. Oh, we are so close. It's not quite a clam, but very, very close. This is a oyster. All right. So this is a giant oyster. This is a big oyster, right, my friends? And oysters, okay, oysters, snails. I think I'm sensing a theme here. Oysters and snails. All right, let's take a look at this one. I think this one, I think some of you are going to get this pretty quickly. All right. What do we think this is? Oh man, I'm seeing a lot of you typing in our Q&A box right now. This is a tooth from, nice, I see a bunch of you saying shark. Yes, this is a shark tooth, my friends. Okay, sharks, snails, oysters, clams, and turtles. Where do these animals typically live? Underwater, right? The ocean. And am I standing in the ocean right now? Were all those pictures of the Badlands, were those part of an ocean? Nope, that's the desert, right? So why do we think we're finding ocean fossils out here in the middle of the desert? Anybody have any ideas? Why do you think? You can take some time to think about this. Why do we think we have ocean fossils in the middle of the desert? Nice. A lot of you are saying it used to be an ocean. There was water here. So about 4 to 6 million years ago, this part was underwater. We were part of the Gulf of California, which I can actually show you kind of on this map here. It's kind of tricky to see, but all this black space is water. And this right here is part of Baja California and Southern California right here. And Anza Borrego is right here. Looks like this shape, but it's right here. And right down here is called the Sea of Cortez. It's part of the Gulf of California. And a long time ago, Anza Borrego was underneath that body of water. But every time we feel earthquakes, how many of you felt earthquakes before? Every time we feel an earthquake, the ground beneath our feet is actually moving north. We actually moved out of that water. So we have our earthquakes to thank for, giving us some land to live on today. But a long time ago, we were underwater. Now, we find between when we were underwater and today, when we're a desert, we find some different fossils, all right, as we move up in layers. And this next thing that I'm going to share with you all is one of my favorite things of all time. All right. This is a body fossil. Okay. But it's not the full body of the animal. It's just a body part. All right. So let's see if we can figure this out. What do we think this could be? Kind of roll it all around here, show you all the angles. Now make sure I can pull up our Q&A box here. Lots of you are typing in here. Ooh, okay, so I see some of you guessing ribs. Ribs is a really good guess. It does kind of look like the ribs that we have on our body here. I like that comparison, but it's not quite ribs. Ooh, some of you are saying jaw. That is really close. A lot of you are saying ribs, not quite ribs. Some of you went even closer and you said it is a tooth. And some of you even guessed exactly what animal it came from, but I'm not going to give that away just yet. This is a tooth, my friends. Can you imagine? This is compared to my teeth to this teeth. This is huge. So this right here is the top of the tooth. All right, so it's a flat tooth. If you feel your teeth with your tongue, we've got some sharp teeth in the front of our mouth, and we kind of have flatter teeth in the back of our mouth because we as humans, we can eat both plants and animals. We are called omnivores. So as omnivores, we can eat plants and animals if we so choose to. This animal had 4 teeth, 2 on top, 2 on bottom, and they all were very, very flat. So do we think this animal was eating lots of plants, or do we think it was eating animals? Was it a meat eater or a plant eater? Raise your hand if you think this was a meat eater with flat teeth. Raise your hand if you think it's a meat eater with flat teeth. Oh, okay, I see some hands up. All right, put your hands down. Raise your hand if you think this was a plant eater, an herbivore with flat teeth. Oh, wow, look at all those hands going. Yes, this is an herbivore. All right. Now, this is a big herbivore. Can any of us think of a really big herbivore from the ice ages? A really big herbivore from the ice ages? I gotta slide all the way down to here to see this. See lots of you typing in herbivore still. Yes, a mammoth. Nice. An ancestor of our elephants. Yes. And I happen to have here with me right now, let's see if I can tilt this down here. This right here is a real lower jaw. Let me come on screen here. A real lower jaw of a mammoth called a Columbian mammoth. All right, so Columbian mammoths lived here about maybe 1 million years ago to as recent as 10,000 years ago. It's pretty recent, friends. And these mammoths, this is their lower jaw. So this is this part. And you can see, hopefully, it has its 2 teeth right here, 1 and 2 over there. Those nice flat teeth here they had on their bottom jaw. Now on the top of their jaw, they have the rest of their skull. All right, so let's check out this right here. All right, this is the top of the skull. We've got 2 teeth, 1, 2, coming out right here. And then of course, coming out of their skull, they also have what? These 2 big tusks. Now you'll notice that these tusks kind of abruptly end right here and right here. That is because this mammoth was so big, this skull was so big, in order to bring it to our laboratory, we had to make the decision to cut part of it, but we still have some of it preserved and protected. But let me actually show you, when we found this mammoth, it was like this. So it's kind of tilted on its side here. You can see 1 tusk coming out this way, and this one kind of went underground a little bit here. This is the front of its head right here. And mammoths, to give us all some perspective, look like this. Now, a lot of us, when we think of mammoths, we think of woolly mammoths. Woolly mammoths were actually a little bit smaller than these guys. and lived further north where there was more ice and snow. All right, here in Southern California, even during the ice ages, this was always a pretty nice place to live. We actually didn't have any of that ice or snow down here. So hold on. If this wasn't an icy or snowy place, what type of habitat do we think this mammoth must have lived in? What do we think? What type of habitat? It's not icy or snowy. Let's think about some clues that we know. We know that they're really big, right? We know that they have flat teeth, so they're herbivores. So it must have been a place that had a lot of food, right? A lot of plant life. Let me see if I can look in our Q&A box here, see if anybody's typed in some good answers. Ooh, a lot of you are saying, some good answers. I see jungle, I see forest. Those are great guesses. Definitely way more plant life for these mammoths. I'm thinking though, they need a little bit more open space, right? These are big animals. Forest might be kind of crowded. So I see a lot of you saying forest, a lot of you saying jungle. Some of you are saying plains and meadows. Yeah. Savanna or grasslands. Yes, excellent, friends. These mammoths were living in these savannas, these grasslands, open space, lots of plants, lots of grass for them to munch on. There were lakes and rivers and streams, way more water than there is here today. These mammoths were living at large here, quite literally large, here in Southern California when this place was a savanna. So we went from being underwater to being a savanna. And now here today, we were in a desert. So we're learning a lot about how California's changed over time just by looking at a couple fossils in here. Now, when we find these fossils out in the field, we want to make sure we leave them there so that our scientists can explore them. Because when we take something from where it was found, we lose a lot of important knowledge. We can figure out what layer it's in if it stays in place. We can see what other things are near it. We can see, how it's positioned. Maybe gives us a clue about how this animal passed away, or maybe where it came from, what layer. Maybe it was in an ocean. Maybe it was in a savanna. There's a lot of clues that we can learn by studying where these fossils were found. So our scientists will take their time with these fossils. Sometimes, the safest place for these fossils is underground. So sometimes these fossils are able to stay out in the field. If we're going to collect something, we need to get special permission to do so because everything here in this park is protected. But once we get that special permission, we can start to slowly uncover these fossils. Now, scientists are going to use tools. They're going to use softer tools that won't do as much damage first. So they'll use things like paintbrushes or even toothbrushes to slowly brush away some of the sand. Then maybe they'll start to use little dental picks. Same things that you all experience when you go to the dentist. Those hard little metal dental picks that your dentist used to clean out between your teeth. We use those on our fossils. And so we'll slowly pick away at these fossils. Then maybe if there's a lot of rock around, maybe we'll use a little drill, something to slowly kind of get things away. This mammoth right here, we collected in 2013. That was a long time ago. And so these fossils we've been working on for a long, long time. Sometimes if it's a small fossil, we're able to clean it up pretty quickly. But a big fossil like this skull here is going to take a long time. Now, when we're here, we're slowly uncovering these fossils. We're starting to figure out what these animals are. And once we're able to figure that out, we'll take them into our collections lab. So I'm going to take you all over there now to see what else we can discover here. And not all the time is identifying these creatures very easy. Sometimes it's a little tricky. So we're going to kind of explore how we work to identify these creatures and see what we can discover. Okay, so I'm coming in here to our collections lab. And we'll get to see some cool stuff. All right. So behind me here, I'm thinking some of you might notice or recognize some stuff back here. All right, we've got a lot of cool things because sometimes when we're finding fossils, we're not necessarily sure what it is. So what we'll do is we will compare with things that we already know. So we already know about animals that are living today and their skeletons. That's pretty easy for us to find out. We can compare to fossils that we've already found and already identified. And we can compare by studying books and research that's being done across the globe. So we have all different types of things to compare here. We've got different jaws from a saber-toothed cat, from some bears over back here, some bear jaws, some javelinas, which are a type of like a pig kind of deal. We can compare all different things, even a shark jaw. So there's all different things that we use to compare to make these observations, to figure out what makes these fossils unique. All right, and so I'm going to show you some cool stuff today. I'm thinking this fossil right here is going to be something that you might recognize. Where in your body do you have a bone that looks like this? What do you think? Hopefully some of you are saying your arm bones or even your leg bones. Yeah, this belongs to an arm or leg of a certain animal. And we know that because if we look up here, this part right here is almost like a perfect ball, a perfect sphere right here. This part of this bone would fit into another bone's socket, almost like a puzzle piece, so that this bone could swing around, swirl around, move in all different directions here in that socket. Now on the other end here, this part looks a little bit different. This part acts almost like a hinge to a door, something that can swing open and closed here. So I want you all to wiggle your arms, to shake them all out. Just shake, 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 shake them in there, like just don't care. Throw them all around. What part of your arms can you move around in all different directions? What part of your arms can you twist around, turn around, and move in all different directions here that might have that ball and socket? Moving my arms around, trying to figure it out. Maybe some of you are pointing to your shoulders. Our shoulders have this ball that fits into our shoulder socket so that our arms can swim forward, swim backwards, go front and back. They can move all around. Now, what part of our arms can kind of swing open and close? Our elbows, right? Our elbows can swing open and close. And for our legs, this ball would be near our hips. So our hips can move around in all different directions. And the hinge would be at our knees, right? Our knees can bend open and close. So this creature moved pretty similar to us because their bones are pretty similar. So that's a pretty good comparison. But I will say that this animal walked on all fours, all right? So we walk on our 2 feet. This creature walked on 4. All right, now I'll give you a couple clues. I'm sure some of you are already getting guesses. I'll pull up our Q&A so I can look at what y'all are saying. But this creature used to live in North America, hence why we find their fossils here today. But they no longer live here in the wild. All right. This creature currently, their modern relatives currently live in parts of Africa and Asia. Okay. And my biggest clue, this creature carries people today. All right, what's a creature that carries people, walks on all fours, lives in Africa and Asia, doesn't live here in the wild? Ooh, I'm seeing some excellent answers. I'm seeing a lot of you saying horse. I'm seeing a lot of you say elephant, and I'm seeing a lot of you say camels. All three, I will accept all 3 of those guesses because those are excellent guesses. And it could be one of those. In fact, this is a, drum roll please, this is a camel fossil. So my friend that guessed camel, a couple of you guessed camel, you are correct. This is a camel leg bone. Now, my friends that were guessing horse, check this out. All right, I can pull up right here This is a horse leg bone here. Look at how similar. They both have this ball and socket here. And then on the other hand here, they both have that kind of hinge. So they're super similar. So sometimes when we find these fossils, you can really see how tricky it is. But let's make some comparisons here. What do we notice that's different about these fossils? Some of you might notice that this fossil is much taller. So maybe the horse was a little bit shorter than the camels. Some of you might have been noticing all this kind of extra bone that these horses have that these camels just don't have. This is probably more space for muscle to attach. So maybe these horses were a little bit more muscular than these camels were. So already we're figuring out what makes these creatures unique, and it's helping us to identify these animals and learn more about what was living here. Now, a lot of you guessed elephants. Now, unfortunately, my friends, I don't happen to have an elephant leg bone here with me today, but I do have a mammoth leg bone. Do y'all want to see my mammoth leg bone? Yeah? Okay. Whew. I'm going to need y'all to count to 3 for me. Need some motivation, some inspiration. Count to 3 so I can lift this thing up. Okay, ready? 1, 2, and 3. Okay, here we go. Whew. All right, my friends, this is a mammoth leg bone. But check this out. Okay, on this end here, we've got that ball. On this end here, we've got that hinge. So they're really, really similar to the camel and the horse leg bone. But what's the main difference between this leg bone and those leg bones? This is a lot bigger, right? So these creatures were really, really big. This bone right here is probably about 4 feet tall. So these Columbian mammoths, from their feet to their shoulders, probably stood about 12 to 14 feet tall. That's really, really big. But it kind of makes sense that they were so big because these creatures, well, they were living in those grasslands, in those savannas with tons of food, lots of water. So they're able to live such a big lifestyle. I've got one more quick thing I want to show you up here. This right here. Anybody recognize what this is? This is a mammoth tusk. These Columbian mammoths' tusks could be up to 10 feet or longer. 10 feet long? That's ginormous. So these mammoths here were really, really big creatures, but not every creature we find is really, really big. So where I'm standing right now, you'll notice there's a lot of stuff on these shelves, all in these white casings. And then I've got a lot of cabinets over here. Once we've identified our creatures, we're going to then store them. We create very unique, special cases for these fossils. Everyone is unique and specific to the fossil itself, so that they're all earthquake proof. If there's any earthquakes in here, they're going to stay safe. And we can also flip them over, open up one side, look at one side of the fossil, flip them over, look at the other side of the fossil. So everything is stored very, very safely. And then not every fossil is really big. So some fossils end up in these shelves, except for this big boy right here. Anybody know what this is? See if I can dip you down into here. This is a giant tortoise shell. It's kind of flipped upside down, but our giant tortoise. All right, spinning around a lot here, starting to get busy. So I'm going to show you one of my favorite fossils. Okay, we're almost done here, but I've got just a few more things I want to share. When we store some of these fossils here, they tend to be a little bit smaller. And this fossil that I'm going to share with you all, see, is this it? I'm not sure you're going to be able to see. All right, let's see if I can get you up really, really close here. Okay, so inside this is a tiny little pill capsule, which you can see right there. And then inside that pill capsule is a tiny little fossil. Oh, that's not the best view, but it's pretty good. Let's see if I can shade it or something. This, my friends, is another leg bone. Just like the camel leg bone, just like the horse leg bone, just like that giant mammoth leg bone. This is a teeny one from a little reptile, like a little lizard. So not all fossils we find are really, really big. Some of these little ones, we have to sift through sand to see if we can find tiny little fossils here. So there's so much to discover here. We've got about 40,000 fossils in our collection. And there's so much to discover. We can learn about all the different types of animals that lived here. We can learn about what types of habitats, what types of foods they might have eaten, what predators and prey were around. There's so much to discover here. And I want to talk really briefly about some of the technology that's used to explore these animals, because technology is a lot of fun, right? We're all on our computers today. We have a 3D printer that we can use to create 3D images of some of these creatures. We also use drones for identifying locations and places in our park. I can show you, let me grab, this is an area. So this is a really big piece of land. It would look like this. It's very, very bright here. But it would look kind of like this here. And we took a drone and we scanned the land so that we can see how it changes over time, right? This says this was taken in 2014. Okay, and then we'll come back maybe a year or so later and we'll do another scan to see how this place has changed over time, because we know that there are some fossils out here. So that's an important piece of technology we'll use. Another piece of technology that we'll use is that 3D printing. So this right here, let's see, actually I want to use a different one. I want to use this one. This right here is a 3D print of an iguana, okay? An iguana skull. All right, and this is pretty cool. You can see all of its little teeth right here, its little teethies. And this iguana is actually a pretty special iguana, okay? I want you to tell me, do we think this is life-size iguana? Do we think that this iguana in real life is a lot bigger? We kind of shrunk it down to observe it? Or do you think this iguana in real life is much smaller and we blew it up? What do we think? Is the real iguana here bigger, smaller, or just the right size? Share with me your guesses. I'll pull up our real iguana skull here and try and grab it here. What do we think? Is it bigger? Is it smaller? Or is it life size? All right, we've got our 3D print here. This is also a 3D print as well, but this is the life size iguana. Look how teeny tiny this is, my friends. Do you think we'd be able to make as good of observations as we do with this iguana skull with this little iguana skull? Probably not, right? So using technology helps us to make these observations and to better study the fossils that we find here. All right, so I want to make sure I save lots of time for questions. We've got more, I'm just kind of walking through here. We've got more bones here. We've got some whale bones. We've got horse bones and camel bones. Horses and camels are our most popular or most commonly found fossils. So we've got some horse and camel bones to compare the fossils with. And right here, another great example of comparing. Okay, I'm going to go really, really slow. This is actually a modern creature that lives in California. You can look, okay, we've got a tail. We've got a tail, we've got a tail, we've got, oh, whoa, some big legs here, some big legs. Whoa, look at those claws. Okay, what do we think this is? Okay, all right. We've got a spine. We've got some rib cages here. Okay, some more claws. Ooh, look at those shoulder bones. We've got a head here. Anybody have any idea what this animal is? Any ideas? What do we think this could be? I'm gonna swipe down, make sure I can see all of your, you got lots and lots of things. Ooh, nice. Yeah, so this is, as some of you said, a mountain lion or a cougar or a puma, all the same kind of animal. And this came from a mountain lion that was found, a skeleton that was found in our park. And we were able to put it together because we compared it to a model of a modern cat. So if any of you have cats at home, this is what their skeleton looks like here. Got those small little skulls in comparison to this big boy right here. And then we were able to use both of these to help us put together this next creature here. Well, okay, so that's a tail. Okay, much bigger hip bones, much bigger legs. Can't even show it in the whole frame here. Big rib cage here, big spine. Look at that shoulder blade, my friends, comes all the way out here to this big hand. And then, what is this, my friends? A saber-toothed cat. So cool. So we've got a lot of really cool creatures here. We've got our saber-tooths, we've got mammoths, we've got ocean creatures, we've got little lizards, all different types of creatures that we can discover out here in our Badlands. And when we find fossils, it's important, again, that we leave them where they are so we can learn about these places, learn about where they're found, get all the clues that we need so that we can explore and learn as much as we possibly can about them. So I'm going to come back in. I'm hopefully going to come back in here. I'm not sure if anybody's in here right now. So I can do some question and answers. All right. So if you have any questions, type those into your chat box right here, your Q&A box, and I'll try and answer a few of them today. All right. So what questions? What are you wondering? Are you wondering anything? Ooh, okay, good questions. Good questions. All right. I see a bunch of you asking about dinosaurs. Do we have any dinosaur fossils? Unfortunately, no, we do not have any dinosaur fossils. The oldest sediments that we have out in the Badlands are about 10 million years old, 10-ish million years old. And because of that, we're only going to find animals that are about 10 million years old. Dinosaurs are like 65 million years and older. So they're way, 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 way older. In other parts of the United States, even, and other parts of the world where there are sediments that are that old, you'll find dinosaur fossils. But here we mostly find Ice Age creatures. All right. Do we have snake fossils? Probably yes. Let's see. Do we have any fox, wolf, or coyote fossils? Yes. We do have dire wolves, I believe, that were found here in the park. So lots of different mammals. How did we find the mammoth fossils? What a good question. So when we go out to look for fossils, we're not necessarily going out to dig, right? Because everything's protected. So when we go out to look for fossils, we are just doing surveys where we will we'll have a certain area that we want to observe, and we will walk around and we will look to see if we can identify anything that looks like a fossil. It's really hard to tell the difference between rocks and fossils, but there are some clues that you can get. Sometimes you'll notice that there are, holes in it. It looks ever so slightly different. And so our scientists are experts at determining what makes a fossil a fossil. And so they'll look around, they'll see if they can find any. Sometimes they don't find anything. Sometimes they find some really cool things. Sometimes maybe a little piece of a fossil might be sticking out from one of those layers. And they'll say, hey, I think that's a fossil. And they'll use their little brushes and toothbrushes and slowly start to uncover it and see if they can find anything inside. So those mammoth fossils were found because something was sticking out, and they were able to slowly uncover. great questions. I know how many fossils we found? We've got about 40,000 fossils in our collection. So about that much. Is the mammoth the largest fossil we have? I'm going to say yes. The mammoth is probably the mammoth skull and is probably the largest fossil because their skulls are so big. I'm standing in front of it again here. Their skulls are so large. They've got really big heads, but then they also have those 10-foot tusks coming out of them. So that's one big fossil. We don't typically find full skeletons. So for that to be one single part of a skeleton, that's really, really big. Let's see. I'm looking for some more questions here. What happens if you find a fossil? What should you do? Well, that's a great question. The most important thing to do is to leave it in place. We don't want to collect it because then again, we lose that information about where it was found. So you want to leave it in place. You can take pictures of it. You can figure out on maybe your parents' phones specifically what your location is, your GPS location. You can drop maybe a little pin and share with a ranger or park staff that you find. Say, hey, I think I found a fossil. You can take your pictures, you can make your observations, try and figure out what you might think it is. But we want to make sure we leave it there and tell park staff so that our scientists can come in and make those determinations out in the field before we collect it. All right, I've got time for maybe a few more fossils here. The most common fossils are horse and camels, but also ocean fossils. Fossils, when there's water involved, we often find a lot of shells and things like that, so they more easily fossilize. The most recent fossil, I'm actually not sure of the most recent fossils. They find stuff all the time. Now in the desert, it's really, really hot, so I don't think they're going out too often during the summertime. I know this past spring, they found 2 mammoth teeth. They found loose teeth, just a couple teeth on the ground, which is the first time that's ever happened here. Typically when we find mammoth teeth, they're attached to a skull, but we found 2 loose teeth. Do we have any bird fossils? Yes, we have fossils from birds called the Aeolornis, which was a massive flying bird, as well as the terror bird, which is a land bird that ran around and was really, really tall. Let's see. All right, a lot of you are asking about bird fossils and lizard fossils. The lizard fossil that we found was found when we were sifting through some sand. When we sift through sand, it comes from sand that was found nearby other fossils. So we can have an idea, okay, there was a fossil formed right here, so maybe there's some other stuff. We don't go and sift through every inch of sand in the desert because there's a lot of sand here. But we'll go and sift through sand that is maybe collected off some of these fossils that we find here, or maybe nearby those fossils. And oftentimes we'll find little fossils. So you all have had such amazing questions. You've been such a great group of junior rangers. Thank you so much for joining me here today at Anza Borrego Desert State Park. I hope that you get to join some more parks and learn some more things along the way and collect those junior ranger badges. If you do 2 programs, you get a badge. If you do 4 programs, you get a certificate. And if you do 6 programs, you get a patch. It's really cool. All right, so thank you all so much, friends. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. I hope you get to get outdoors, explore nature, see what kinds of cool things you can discover near you. Maybe someday when it's a little bit cooler, you'll come out here and visit me in the desert. All right, thanks everybody. Bye.